You ask something harmless, they answer politely, and somehow the air between you dies almost instantly. You feel it happen in real time, like watching a door close while you're still smiling. Then your brain scrambles for another question, and suddenly conversation feels more like CPR than connection. If you've ever left the chat replaying everything, this video is going to hit uncomfortably close. Because deep conversation is not built by stories, clever lines, or pretending confidence you don't feel. It's built by questions that make people feel safe, seen, and honest before they start editing. And once you understand that, awkward small talk starts turning into conversations people actually remember later. Not because you were smoother, but because you stopped asking anxiously and started asking with attention. Most people think good questions sound impressive, but the ones that deepen connection usually sound simple. That's why your smartest question sometimes lands flat, while a softer one unexpectedly opens a world. Today, I'll show you how to ask questions that pull people deeper without sounding fake awkward. You'll learn the mistake that kills intimacy, the shift that creates openness, and the secret move. That last one matters most because it reverses everything people assume about confidence, charisma, and depth. First, though, we need to talk about the invisible panic hiding underneath most everyday questions today. When you're nervous, you don't ask to discover, you ask to survive the silence in front. So your questions become functional, safe, and weirdly empty even when the words themselves seem fine. Where are you from? What do you do? How was your weekend? Nothing wrong, nothing memorable. These questions collect information, but they rarely invite revelation, and people can feel that difference immediately. It's the difference between shining a flashlight into someone's room and handing them a key instead. One says, "Answer me," the other says, "Show me what matters most to you right now." And when people sense that energy, their tone changes before their words catch up at all. Their shoulders drop, their eyes stop scanning, and suddenly the conversation stops feeling like performance anymore. That is the first shift. Stop asking for facts and start asking for personal meaning instead. Facts are easy to report, but meaning forces someone to briefly meet themselves before answering you. Ask what they do and you'll get a title. Ask what that word changes inside them. Ask where they live and you'll get a city. Ask what that place does to them. Ask how their week was and you'll get a summary. Ask what surprised them most lately. But ask what drained them, what surprised them, or what felt good, and now you're somewhere. Because meaning-based questions don't request data, they reveal priorities. Beers, values, shame, delight, and identity. And identity is where conversations stop being polite and start becoming unforgettable for both people involved. Here's the trap though. Once people hear ask deeper questions, they instantly become weird about it. They start sounding like a podcast host in a candlelit basement, interrogating strangers about childhood wounds. Depth is not intensity. Depth is precision plus safety plus timing in the right moment together. Ask the right question too early and it lands like emotional trespassing on private ground instantly. Ask a slightly softer version first and people walk themselves toward the real answer willingly later. So the game is not digging harder, it's creating enough safety that honesty stops feeling expensive. And that starts with a question so overlooked most people never notice its quiet power working. Instead of asking what happened, ask what part of it stayed with them afterward the longest. That tiny change does something magical. It tells the other person their inner experience matters more. And people open faster when they feel you're interested in their experience, not merely their biography. Think about two first dates sitting across each other under dim lights, both trying hard. One asks, "So, what do you do for fun?" and gets a list of hobbies back. The other asks, "What makes you lose track of time lately?" and the answer has color. Now they're not discussing activities, they're witnessing aliveness, attention, and the private mechanics of joy together. That is the first practical tool. Replace category questions with texture questions whenever you want depth. Category questions. Sort people. Texture questions reveal what being that person actually feels like inside daily. Try this at work where conversations often die beneath efficiency, politeness, and low-grade emotional armor. Instead of asking how a project is going, ask what's been unexpectedly tricky about it recently. That question gives permission to stop performing competence and admit friction without sounding weak or careless. And the moment someone admits friction, a conversation becomes real useful and strangely bonding for everyone. Because nothing creates trust faster than dropping the tiny lie that everything is under control today. The second tool is even simpler and most people avoid it because it feels too quiet. When someone answers, don't rush to prove you relate. Stay there one beat longer than usual. Those shallow conversations don't die from bad questions. They die from premature turn-taking habits instead. Someone reviews something small and we grab it, translate it, and return it wearing our clothes. That's why someone says, "I've been exhausted," and we jump in with "same, it's been crazy." It sounds connecting, but it secretly redirects attention away from their experience and back toward ours. Instead, after they answer, use a follow-up that holds the spotlight exactly where it belongs. Say what about that hit you hardest, or what felt different about that this time personally. Now they don't need to compete with your story, defend their feelings, or compress themselves anymore. They get space, and space is where people hear themselves clearly enough to say something true. This is also where eye contact changes, voices slow down, and the room stops feeling noisy. If this is helping, already like the video and subscribe because we're building skills that work. And tell me in the comments which question has opened someone up around you most unexpectedly. The third tool is to ask for contrast because contrast reveals change and change reveals story. People struggle with broad questions because broad questions force them to search everywhere at once inside. But contrast questions hand them 2 points and let their mind build a bridge between them. Ask what's different about you now compared with a year ago, and watch depth appear fast. Ask what changed between the old version of you and this one sitting here with me. Suddenly, they're not describing themselves like a profile, they're describing a journey, a loss, a choice. And journeys are sticky because the brain pays attention when it senses movement instead of labels. This works beautifully with friends you've known forever, especially when your conversations accidentally fossilized into updates. You don't need another recap of work, stress, apartment issues, and weekend plans every single time. Ask what they've outgrown lately, and you'll hear something much closer to the truth underneath everything. The fourth tool is bold, but when used gently, it changes everything inside the conversation immediately. Ask people what they are pretending not to care about when they actually care a lot. Not as an accusation, as an invitation to drop the cool mask for a second instead. Because adults rarely struggle to speak, they struggle to admit what still matters to them deeply. We hide enthusiasm, soften disappointment, joke over rejection, and act attached exactly where we're most tender. So when you ask that question calmly without drama, you create a rare kind of permission. Maybe your friend shrugs first, then admits they still care about a text never answered back. Maybe your coworker laughs, then confesses they desperately wanted recognition for a project nobody mentioned publicly. That moment is gold, because beneath every polished adult persona lives an unretired human need somewhere. And when someone trusts you with that need, the conversation stops being casual forever after that. But there is still one missing piece, and it's the reason deep questions sometimes backfire hard. You can ask perfect questions and still create distance if your energy says, "Impress me first." People don't only answer words, they answer motives, pressure, status, and the emotional weather underneath them. If your question feels like a test, even a brilliant one becomes unsafe to answer honestly. If it feels like genuine curiosity, even a simple question can unlock a hidden room inside. This is the final reveal. Deep conversations are not created by depth first at all, ever. They're created by emotional safety, and safety makes depth feel like relief instead of risk, suddenly. That flips the entire game because now your job is not digging deeper at every turn. Your job is making truth feel welcome enough to walk into the room on its own. And that's why the most magnetic people rarely seem like they're trying to be magnetic intentionally. They're not mining you for interesting material. They're making it safe to be real right now. So the next time conversation starts skidding, resist the urge to become more impressive or fast. Become more specific, more patient, more curious about meaning than facts in this exact moment instead. Ask what stayed with them, what changed them, what they're hiding, or what matters underneath most. Then hold the silence like it belongs there, because sometimes the deepest answer arrives second later. You will feel the conversation turn before you can explain why it turned that way exactly. Their face softens, their language gets more human, and something guarded quietly steps forward at last. That is the moment everyone wants, even the people who pretend they don't want it to. Not perfect wording, not big charisma, just the sudden relief of not staying on the surface. Because the real flex in conversation isn't being fascinating, it's making honesty feel strangely easy today. And once people feel that with you, they remember you differently than everyone else around them. Not because you entertained them, but because you gave them access to themselves without fear first. And that is unforgettable, because most people go through entire weeks without feeling truly met anywhere. So don't aim to sound deep. Aim to notice deeply and let your questions prove it. That difference is subtle, but people feel it faster than they understand it with their minds. And once they feel it, conversation stops being something you manage and becomes somewhere you go. Somewhere warmer than cleverness, stronger than small talk, and far more honest than performance ever feels. That's when strangers start sounding familiar, and familiar people finally reveal what was hidden all along. All from a question that didn't demand brilliance, only presence, patience, timing, and genuine human interest. So next time you're tempted to ask something safe just to keep conversation alive, pause first. Ask the question that says, I can handle the answer if you want to give it. Because that is what people are really listening for beneath every conversation they enter with you. Can I be unpolished here, or do I need to keep performing for your comfort instead? Your questions answer that before your mouth finishes asking them, because tone, timing, eyes, pauses matter. So ask like someone who values truth more than smoothness and connection more than clever control. Ask like silence doesn't scare you, like emotion doesn't embarrass you, like depth is normal here. Because when you do, people stop giving rehearsed answers and start giving living ones back instead. And living answers are where chemistry, trust, desire, friendship, and influence actually begin for real together. You don't deepen conversation by pressing harder. You deepen it by making honesty lighter to carry. The best questions don't corner people. They open a door and wait there calmly for them. And the conversations people never forget usually begin when someone makes truth feel easier than hiding.